Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, Air the Ninth, otherwise known as Nelson, otherwise known as Mommy, who's that guy? Anyway, I just wanted to talk about something really quickly. My own thoughts about COVID-19, because I feel like a lot of people feel like conspiracy theorists, right? It's like, okay, maybe Illuminati isn't exactly what they say it is, right? Maybe Illuminati doesn't have Beyonce in their back pocket, but something's gotta be going on somehow, huh? If the local boys from the pub can get together and form a club where they talk about football and all that stuff, like, you think that the elite don't have clubs, bro? Fucked up ass clubs. Anyway, let's get into what I wanted to talk about with regard to COVID-19. So, people think that, or conspiracy theorists suggest that COVID-19 is some form of population control. And the same thing for the vaccine, that this is some form of population control. But with regard to the vaccine, I would wager that if these people created this society and culture, a culture to which the vast majority of people have subscribed to it, right? It's very unlikely that they would then say, oh, let's make the vaccine population control, and then people would organically react with, I don't want to get it, and they didn't anticipate that. You get what I'm saying? If they are in charge of making all of this, then they would be able to at least anticipate your reaction. I mean, hell, if they could put all this information with regard to how they made this world that we live in into an AI, the AI could predict your actions, right? So it's like, I don't think that they would make this thing and then be surprised when nobody wants to take it. That would be part of the plan. What I wanted to talk about specifically was what I think COVID-19 is with regard to an end game, right? For me, I see COVID-19 as a great facilitator of a transition that otherwise would have taken another 20, maybe 30 years minimum, right? This transition is regarding the online space, the online sphere, right? The digital world. Now, as much as internet had been taken in, as much as we had accepted it and incorporated it into our daily lives, like, there's still a vast majority of people who either did not use the internet at all, or the internet stops at Facebook, Google and Facebook, and that's where the internet stops. There's nothing beyond that. You see what I'm saying? So I can see how every time you go back home, you become extremely reliant on the internet to communicate, to interact, to even get your jobs done, to get work done, to get money. You see what I'm saying? And for the people who were not used to the internet, they still need to use the internet to get money now. They need to become more accustomed to it, more acquainted with it, in order to be able to get more cash. Zoom Zoom took off, bro. Zoom took off like it was always there, like Skype was never a thing, right? In Africa, Discord numbers of usage of Discord in Africa is just picking up like crazy, okay? And my whole thing is, it was necessary. They needed something to facilitate this, because if we took another 30 years, a lot of these owners of these corporations, these tech companies and corporations would just fall to the wayside and die. And as a matter of fact, a lot of startup tech companies wouldn't see investment like they want to, simply because someone with the money doesn't really rely on the internet that much. Maybe he's like someone with an 80s kind of mindset and doesn't really rely on the internet that much. And it becomes a situation where he won't invest because he doesn't see, for your product to work, you need a world where people are subscribed to the internet like crazy. Now, in his world, he isn't subscribed to the internet like crazy. So for him, it's like, this doesn't sound like it's gonna work, kid. Doesn't sound like it's gonna pop off, right? So this entire change of COVID and lockdown has created a paradigm in which those kinds of tech companies can receive the investment that they want. But beyond that, look at the other side of the coin. You look at something like Google, which is too big to fail, right? They don't need investment. They're too big to fail. And yet, when Google tried to launch Google Glass, an AR kind of world. Because think about it, right? Think about a world where augmented reality is a real thing, right? Where everywhere you look, you get some sort of digital counterpart, where there's some kind of digital information or some sort of digital interaction with a physical thing, right? So you can literally imagine being able to look at any lamppost in the city after dark. As soon as the lamppost comes on, as soon as a lamp comes on, right, a street light, you look at any street light, it'll tell you the time, no matter where you are. You can be in the middle of nowhere because you got Starlink, right? You look at Starlink being set up, and they're trying to create internet in the most remote of areas. So now we're going to have a world where you can be in the Amazon and FaceTime. And it's like, you can look at any street light anywhere in the world, it'll tell you the time, you know? And, you know, that's just an example, but like, literally the possibilities are endless, especially if you create an open source scenario where people can make apps or augmented reality interactions, just like anyone can make an app on the Google Play Store and put it on the Play Store. It's like anyone could come up with anything. You could look at the sun and your AR glasses automatically dim, you know what I'm saying, so that you don't hurt your retinas. Like, all of this stuff is for the future. But my point is, you can see how the entire world could change from such technology and the application of such technology. You can see how, I can see personally, how fun and interesting it would be to have a world like this, you know? Like, to be able to look at a bookstore before you even go inside and see the new releases, see which books they've got coming in, you know, which books are sold out. Like, you can see. Before you even walk in, you can see. If you Googled, if you came across Brent Week's The Lightbringer series and you enjoyed it, and you're walking down the street and you look to your right and there's a bookstore, and immediately it says Brent Week's The Night Angel trilogy available here. Immediately you're in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes personalized ads to another level where, hell, you might even enjoy getting those ads. You know. And for me, the most interesting thing is, like, you look at Google Glass and you look at the fact that something like Google Glass failed. They tried to launch it and it failed. And I remember when Google Glass launched, I was still a kid and I thought, this is the new world. You know, this is how new levels of technology get implemented by someone too big to fail instituting them, right? Wrong. They failed. Google Glass didn't work. And I believe that a huge reason was because of the climate, because the people looked at it and didn't see a reason for it. But for a kid like me who grew up on the internet, it's like, I could see how this would be very, very awesome, but they couldn't, you know. And this was before Sword Art Online was even a thing. Now, there's an article here on Google regarding how and why Google Glass failed by Investopedia.com. I'll probably leave the link in the description. And I just want to read through here and see if we can I probably won't read the whole thing because it's freaking long. But I just want to see if I can glean something that might support what I'm saying, or maybe there's an argument that I haven't even taken into consideration, right? Understanding how and why Google Glass failed. The dream. Google Glass wasn't coming to save the world, just help it. In fact, the central dispute among members of Google X was whether glass should be used as a fashionable device all the time or only for specific utilitarian functions. I think that should be left to the user. Drawing inspiration from John F. Kennedy's understanding that bigger challenges create more passion, specifically in regards to the space race, Google development ultimately strove to integrate feedback into its system. To do this, Google co-founder Sergey Brin, who also oversees Google X, suggested Glass be treated as a finished product. Despite everyone in the lab knowing it was a prototype with major kinks to be worked out, shout out Cyberpunk, Brin wanted to release Glass to the public and have consumers provide feedback that Google X could then use to improve this design. That actually doesn't sound so bad on paper. The glass prototype was released early as a result, with the intention of being more forward-looking than expressly convenient. Tim Brown, CEO and president of IDEO, feels the effort was not in vain, stating, "There's never in the history of new technology been an example where the first version out of the gate has been the right version." Well, that's true. Ultimately, although consumers want wearable technology, the functionality needs to be palatable, as Slate notes. Glass's problem is that the technology today simply doesn't offer anything that average people really want, let alone need in their everyday lives. Glass is an interesting idea. It is nice to look at, but not look through. It's a very apt way to put it. The technology today simply doesn't offer anything that average people really want, let alone need. But here's the thing about it, right? Is like, you just gotta give people, like, you give me a smartphone. There's nothing on the smartphone I inherently want or / need, right? If I need to make a call, I can buy a burner, right? So it's like, there's nothing that I inherently need on a smartphone or inherently want. But the smartphone is an open book in which I can write my story. I can doodle. I can do whatever I want. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, being able to put on apps that I want, put on apps that like are, are you sure you can trust installing this app from this source? And I'm like, install that shit. I don't give a fuck. I'm customizing my experience. I'm making it how I want it to be, and ultimately I'm making my phone an extension of myself. Whether or not I install malware is a different story, is a different conversation, but like, what I'm installing, what I'm building is fundamentally my own an extension of myself. And in a continent like Africa, where internet is really expensive, so internet that is average internet that is accessible for the lower middle class family in America is not accessible for a lower middle class family in Africa, not even in South Africa, because internet is just so fucking expensive over here. Like, the internet I've got is average internet. I can't even stream. If you've ever seen any of my streams on Twitch, it's 360p streams, right? I stream because I enjoy streaming, but like, I'm streaming to one viewer, and I can't blame anyone, because the stream quality is not great, because the internet quality is not great. I mean, it's average. It's average for the West, but for Africa, it's really, really good. But for the West, it's average. It's nothing compared to high quality internet. That would be way too expensive, way out of my price range. You gotta be rich to have that internet. You gotta be straight up rich, which is crazy, right? The device retailed for $1,500 and didn't do any single action especially well. You see, it was super expensive. It was seen as a super premium product with not much utility to it or much use to it, This is what I would say with regard to Google, something like Google Glass. They need to make the technology cheap to manufacture, right? So it needs to be cheap to make. Like, VR technology right now is pretty expensive if you're buying from Oculus, but there are videos on YouTube of people making VR headsets that are fully functional for super cheap. And it's like, this is, as an African, I can tell you this, with regard to technology, that is one of the reasons why Africa and China have a pretty decent relationship. It's because, like, for the longest time, the Chinese would see a blueprint that, the West have for some technology, and they would make that thing super fucking cheap. You know what I'm saying? They would make it using barely any resources. Now, when an African travels to China and sees, oh shit, smartphones are super expensive for an African, but these smartphones are super fucking cheap. You know what I'm saying? He buys them in bulk, he comes to Africa, and he makes a killing. Now smartphones are injected into the economy and the daily experience of people. And so, because your neighbor has one, you want one. And you get it for cheap. You're not going to buy a fucking iPhone because that costs way too much money. You're going to buy a Jingmao because you don't even know what the brand is, but you can afford it. You can have WhatsApp. You can have everything else that the iPhone people have. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, once technology starts to get cheaply cheaply manufactured, you get large markets of consumers in like Africa has a huge market of consumers, but we also have a huge market of people who are poor or below the middle class line. And it's like, you can't expect those people to pay full price. No one's going to be paying $1,500 for Google Glass. No one. You're talking about 1% of the entire continent who are going to pay that money for that product. But if Google Glass was like $150, you could probably get them, a good majority of people in various countries having it, using it, or at the very least able to afford it, So firstly, that's what they need to do. They need to be able to make the product very cheap. Secondly, they need to make it open source. Once they make it cheap to make, you create a closed code for any product, any application or software that will work on Google Glass. So you're talking about like the creation engine, right? On Skyrim. That came with the creation kit. So every mod that is made for Skyrim or Fallout, whatever, is made for the creation kit through for the creation engine through the creation kit. So you just need to make that open source system and just put it out there, like, oh guys, make something, and let people make shit and watch shit just go haywire. Watch everything explode with popularity with regard to AR. It would be crazy. You've already got stuff like Randonautica. You've already got stuff like geocaching. Like, imagine you could add an augmented reality layer to that stuff already. It would become even more popular than it is. But anyway, as I was saying, I think that this kind of speaks to what I'm saying, right? That, like, people didn't see the use for Google Glass. But imagine you could have a Zoom meeting right now on Google Glass, right? You don't have to be at your PC or at your desk or anything. Like, you can literally imagine you could have a Zoom meeting on Google Glass, but you didn't even have to. So it's going to simulate. You know how you can simulate your webcam and be like a cat or a mouse, and it's like you're sort of like a VTuber. Like, it'll simulate your face on the Zoom call, just syncing your audio. So you can literally be in the bath and be on a Zoom call with no issues or fear that, oh shit, it'll take, it'll film me in the bath. Like, that won't happen. That's just not a very crazy idea, but it's an idea. It's like you create this environment in which this technology can thrive and people can see the use for it, even if it's not completely utilitarian, even if it's some sort of playful usage for it, right? And for me, it's like, yeah, that, like, I kind of see COVID as being this facilitator of that transition, to have people become more acquainted with the internet and to associate it with everyday life, everyday living, and beyond just Facebook and this, like, really, really into it. This is a crazy idea, but to close, I'll say this. I have a theory, as a conspiracy theorist kind of guy from time to time. I have a theory that one day, with all this talk of universal basic income and automation of most jobs, if not all jobs, one day everyone will have a universal basic income, but people will supplement that income based on online businesses. And what I mean by that is everyone's going to have one. Everyone's going to have a blog about something or another, you know what I'm saying, with like 300 people who visit, maybe a couple thousand, like, it depends on your popularity. But even the person who's got like 500 visitors on their page will be making some money. You've already got the universal income, right? But you'll be supplementing that income by like $50 every month because of your blog, right? And the bigger your blog is, the more money you'll make. And it'll get like that. I mean, that's what I think will happen. Not to say that it will, but I can see a world in which that becomes the reality. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've been having some microphone problems, which is why I haven't really been uploading. I hope this sounds really good. And thank you for watching and listening. If you've got any comments, please put it down below. And what do you guys think about a Discord? Just to have a place where we can have an actual debate about this stuff, because I would love to hear. I don't like talking like I know everything. I talk because this is what's in my mind and I'm open to change. So like, let me know if you guys think that opening a Discord would be a good idea where we could chat and talk about this stuff and, really go in depth about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day and stay safe out there.